so we are back with the shamrock just for a quick little video to show you some things that you can do once you've drawn your line drawing with the shamrock. So again, we're going to start with just a pencil, and this version is going to probably be more for my advanced kids out there, okay? We're going to talk more about shading. So I did a little bit yesterday, but today I'm going to talk about why we're shading. Why do we put the shadows where we put them? Okay, so I'm going to start. Again, we're going to have this light grip. I like for shading to hold even lower at the bottom of my pencil so that the side of your pencil is what is shading. You can even rotate it and do a grip like this. So the side of your pencil is shading, and so that is, I'm actually going to put this on all of my shamrock. Okay, so I'm going to try as best as I can to stay in the lines here, but I'm going to shade the entire shamrock. So let's do that really quick, and then we'll talk about different areas to put highlights and shadows. Alright, so I now have a shaded 4-leaf clover. So as you saw, I just put the edge of my pencil and I just did the whole thing. And if you accidentally went out of the lines, you can just do a little erasing like that. Okay, but again, we're not really worried about that right now. So now we are going to start with where our light is coming in from. So since I have my light coming in from this window in front of me, that's what I'm going to act like the light is coming in on my clover as well. So if you can see, if I put my hand right here, the top of my hand is light. Right, that's where you see the highlights. Down here, where the sun is not reaching, is where you see the shadows. So that is what we are going to do for our clover as well. So let's start with our highlights. And what you do for a highlight is you actually erase. That's why we started with a light shading, so that we actually have something to erase. So again, I am going to just start erasing, and again, it's on a curve. Right, because light, when you look at highlights, the light kind of curves around the whole object. Okay, and when you're shading, of course, make sure you shade pretty lightly so that it's easier to erase, so that you really get that white highlight that we're looking for here. Okay, and I'm going to do one kind of up here as well. So the sun is coming in here. It would probably also be hitting the top of these leaves as well. So again, just going along this line, I'm going to make these highlights. Okay, and practice putting highlights in different places and think to yourself, does it make sense that I put a highlight there? Is that really where the sun is coming in? Okay, so I'm going to focus on doing the highlights up here, and now I'm going to put my shadows, again, I showed my hand, I'm going to put my shadows on the bottom, okay, so the leaves that wouldn't be facing the light. So down here is going to be my first one, and again, I'm going to make it darker than this general shading that we did. Okay, so again with the side of the pencil. Alright, and again, this kind of shading is definitely more advanced, so my little ones, don't worry, at the end I'm going to show you something that you all can do as well, but my more advanced kids, please go ahead and try this. Okay, and we're going to start doing a shadow over here as well, because it's the same spot as over here, just on the other leaf. Right, so the light would not be hitting this area. So it's going to be darker, it's going to be in the shadow. Alright, there we go. So we have a few highlights, we have a few shadows. Now, something else you can think about is the curve of the clover, right? So the leaves are not just going to be completely flat. This line that we drew acts as that curve, okay? And again, underneath this curve might be a shadow because the sun is coming in on top, okay? So we might have a highlight on the top of the curve versus a shadow underneath the curve. Okay, and notice how it's still a different color than this really dark line, but it's also a different color than this light shading, and that might take a while to get used to, the different colors of shading, okay? And again, up here there's probably going to be a highlight because this part is curved up towards our light source. Alright, so I'm just going to make a quick little shadow there, and a highlight there. And then let's do a shadow down here because this is probably facing away from the sun. The sun is not going to be reaching the bottom of our clover. Alright, so again, play around with different shadows and different highlights. Think about your light source. Where is it coming from? If it helps you, get a light, a spotlight of some kind, even just a window, and put an object in front of it like I have in my hand, right? And you can see where that light is coming in and where there's no light hitting it. So really think about that when you're doing highlights and shadows, okay? So, there is a good shot of our clover all shaded up for my more advanced students. And then another thing that you can do with your clover, alright, if you have colors at home, and again, you can still do this with pencil, you don't need colors. You can still do patterns with pencil, okay, but this is just another option. So I did some polka dots, I did some squiggly lines. Notice I used the shapes and the lines that we talked about in the video yesterday. Alright, except I just did it with some marker. So, of course, you can just decorate however you want. Doesn't even have to be green, that's just what I chose to do. Alright, so we have our two options here, our shading and our color. Alright, so that's just to go off of the shamrock that we did yesterday. And then once we move on to that next video, we're going to talk even more about what we can do with color. Alright, keep up the good work. See you next time.